not only were you one of the founders of Iris, you were also person number one. So you were the one that made the jump.
I would have done it by myself. If it was just me thinking, well, I never would have thought I'll start my own agency.
I feel the same way.
If you're prepared to put your whole self into something, then your personality is the thing that is different and unique. And people would say, how does it feel to be the only female in a founding team? How does it feel to be the only female on a board? I refuse to acknowledge it.
I'd love to just go a little bit further with female leadership. That sort of diversity of thought and diversity of perspective is really, really important. It's been good to me and it has changed my perspective and my behaviours. So welcome to this episode of Entrepreneurs in the Wild. Joining me today is the incredible Claire Humphris, who I happen to have known for a long time, having started up Iris together and also worked together at IMP. As you will know, those of you that have tuned into some of our previous episodes, what we're doing with Entrepreneurs in the Wild is trying to understand what an entrepreneur is. Can we all be one? Should we all be one? This session with Claire, we're going to be talking about females in entrepreneurship, female leaders. We'll also be thinking about the industry and the entrepreneurial powers of our industry. But before we carry on, welcome, Claire.
Welcome.
And I would love you to just talk a little bit about yourself, your journey, the thrills and the spills, and also describe the role that you play now.
I am Claire Humphris. I am currently the CEO of the London office at Iris. So my journey with Iris has been 25 years now. I started my career as a suit, so client leadership. In the middle of my career, I went into new business for the agency and I absolutely loved it. For me, this gave me the thrills and the excitement 15 years into Iris that I'd felt right at the beginning. And then latterly, it's been 3 years now that I've been CEO. So again, it's been a learning journey, becoming more focused on the commercials, general management, and having to think about a whole host of other things other than clients and marketing and chasing down new business.
Maybe we just start with just winding back the clock 25 or so years, back to the very beginning of this story. And obviously we were all together working at an agency that doesn't exist anymore called IMP, which was just full of amazing people, full of talent. Me, you and Steve, we were all, working on the same accounts,
Yes.
In the same team. And then before we knew it, we had a startup called Iris. Mm-hmm. It'd be great just to sort of, reflect back on that period and, what was going through your mind, what made you take that leap. Not only were you one of the founders of Iris, you were also person number one. So you were the one that made the jump.
We were all at what was a big agency group and a big agency. And I had been in the agency for about 2 years. And since college, I'd wanted to work in marketing and I wanted to work for an agency. I was really attracted by the, rebellious nature of some of the people within agencies, but creativity as well. I'd started to recognise in myself I was at my best when I was coming up with ideas. And then I joined this big agency and I felt like I had my bubble burst. I had also volunteered to work on Ericsson mobile phones. It was the account in the agency that nobody wanted to work on. And I had sat there for 2 years watching a succession of people be broken. I backed myself to be able to be resilient in that situation. I could also see that if I volunteered to work on it, the thing that nobody else wanted to do, I might just get promoted. I was desperate to be an account manager. So that volunteering of myself for a difficult situation was the thing that led to me being on the team sheet for Iris, because it was that client that wanted to set up his own, he wanted his own agency that was built around him. So if I hadn't have volunteered to do that, I never would have been on the team sheet. So I think the first lesson is do hard things. Volunteer for the hard stuff. Yeah. It makes you indispensable at times.
I'd forgotten about all of that. But I always felt that certainly in the early years of Iris, if I was to sort of right up our brand. There was this thing around delighting the demanding, and being able to deal with the most difficult problems in the industry would make you the most competitive and attractive. These days, it's a bit harder to try to sell that in a motivating way to people. What's brilliant about that is just this sort of sense of ambition, with a small a, this sort of quiet ambition. And I think that for me is one of the big kind of lessons in the sort of entrepreneurial story for me, is like how one makes those opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, you have always said this to me. You create your own luck, Claire. And I think there are different forms of luck. So there's luck, there's your circumstances that you're born into. That you can't change that. But then there are actions that you can take that create a set of circumstances that make you seemingly lucky to everyone else, but it was you colliding with other people that generated that opportunity. And then there's luck. There's luck in terms of what you as a unique person can bring to a situation. So if you're prepared to put your whole self into something, then your personality is the thing that is different and unique. And I always think about putting the full force of my personality into things, and that I will get this project moving by sheer force of personality. That creates luck and opportunity, because you're prepared to do sometimes what other people might not be.
So is there anything in your background that makes you see the world that way?
There is definitely, and this is a bit of a theme that has run through my teenage years, but also has run through my career. I'm at my best when I'm faced with adversity, because what sits behind it is, fuck you, I will show you. Don't write me off. And I almost sometimes need someone to either ignore me, not promote me, write me off, to channel my energy into proving them wrong.
Going back to early Iris, I remember really clearly you were like person number one, the first one over the top, so to speak. What did that feel like? Because you were a young female, you were in this situation working with a bunch of people. And then here you are, you're like on your own. You're the first one to make the jump. What was going through your mind?
So I think there were negative and positive forces at play. So I was at that point with IMP where I was disillusioned, and I'd done this hard thing. I'd taken on this client that nobody else wanted to work on, and I still didn't get the promotion. So there was this, I'm going to leave anyway. I have nothing to lose. But then the positive forces at play were, in this big company, I found my tribe. I found the people that I have so much fun with at work. We all work really, really hard together. So I trust their work ethic. I know that when we say we're in it together, we really are. And I think they're talented. I believe in them. And that positive force was really strong. And so you've got the negative force pushing me away, and you've got this positive pull of, well, if I can go and do something with these people that I think are amazing, why on earth would I not do it? I had no doubt whatsoever, because the feeling about doing something with you guys was so strong. I explain it to people now as it was like I was in love. And when you're in love with somebody, you cannot see any fault in them, can you? But that strength of feeling really did make that decision very, very easy. Yeah. And I can remember the day when, I think it was you said, right, we're on. This thing is going to happen. And I said, right then, I'm going to go and resign. And the look of fear on it, like,
yeah.
And then,
my God.
Then you watched me do it. Yeah. And it was like, and you guys said to me, we have to do it now because you've gone and done that. But as far as I was concerned, I'm going to leave anyway. So I might as well give this other thing a go first with you guys. And if it doesn't work, what's the worst that can happen? I'm 25. I've got no mortgage. I haven't even got a boyfriend. It really doesn't matter. Yeah. I look back now and think that was quite fearless to do that. Yeah. But at 25, you really can't get it wrong. Can you? Because you will bounce back from failure.
I mean, what you're describing there is a sort of entrepreneurial leap. And you're also describing a kind of team spirit, an entrepreneurial spirit that is all about, well, trust, pride, camaraderie, things that we've talked about a lot over the years, and how motivating, intoxicating it is, and also how clear it is, how different it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it by myself. If it was just me thinking, well, I never would have thought I'll start my own agency.
I feel the same way. I mean, do you think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
No.
And do you think about what you've done? Is it entrepreneurial? I mean, do you?
No,
looking back
because
on
you think for some reason, the definition of an entrepreneur is solo. It's a solo pursuit. It's that person who started X company and sold it for millions. You rarely hear stories about groups of people. And it was the magic of the chemistry of that group. And it was the group supporting each other that made the thing possible, and it's easier to get momentum with a team than it is to, as a solo person, to try and convince everybody that you're right and they should trust you and they should give you their business.
Sort of moving on then into your sort of career through Iris and all the different sort of careers you've had within Iris. Can you remember the sort of moments where you sort of think about, well, that was the entrepreneurial spirit, and that was sort of, driving the performance and our success? And can you sort of think about times when, you were like making that infectious and making that like catch on with other talent that weren't part of that founding group?
I mean, I think to a certain degree, you use it on every single pitch that comes into the agency, because a brief comes in and you know that you have to gather the right people together. You have to form a team. You are about to ask them to go on a really intense journey with you. You're about to ask them to make sacrifices in their personal lives, but you have to make those people believe that they can win. You have to make them feel like it's possible. You have to make them feel like they're going to get something of value out of this experience, even if we don't win, because you're asking them to take the chance and go with you. And so I think when we've had good pitch experiences, then that has been that entrepreneurial belief in we can do this has come into the fore. I also think if you're trying to come up with ideas for clients where they've never done, they want a unique idea, they want something that's never been done before, how do you persuade a team of people to really push it so that they're willing to invent something new and overcome the hurdles of how they actually make that thing happen? And there's been quite a few examples in Iris's history of where we've gone for things and invented things that we never should have done. So the Olympic mascots.
Yeah.
I mean, that tender it was a public tender, wasn't it? So anyone in the world could have applied to do that. We'd never designed a toy or a mascot before. On paper, we shouldn't have done that, but we did. We took Jamiroquai up in a plane because we wanted to have the brand that we were working with. We wanted them to be associated with the world record. So got him on a plane, took him up to 35,000 feet, and we had the highest ever concert. So those ideas seem silly now, but at the time we had to persuade clients to spend a lot of money on things that had never been done before.
Yeah.
And I think it's the entrepreneurial belief that it's right and it's worth it.
Yeah. And obviously that goes back to something that you were saying right at the beginning of this, where you were like proving people wrong. Who says you can't? How, when that all comes together and there's a group of people who have that same spirit, it then becomes your product. And I remember, early days, Iris, we weren't very clear about what we did.
No.
I think I look at it now and I think we are very, very clear, and it's very professional and very well thought through. And but back in the early days, it was much more around just doing things that other people hadn't done, and that seemed to be enough. There was a whole load of clients that were just attracted to that principle, and they came to us because of that, even though we hadn't written it down or codified it or anything like that.
Yeah, and other agencies were fearful of us for that reason as well, because when Iris was on the pitch list, you never really knew what they were going to come back with, and sometimes we got it right,
Nor did we,
and nor did
as it
we,
goes.
and sometimes we didn't get it right in any way. But it was that you can never really relax around us, because we will shift shape and we will change form, and we will come back with a left side view on this brief, which I look back on now and think that was absolutely the right way to play it, because we weren't an established, traditional, above-the-line agency. We were an upstart, and we were bottom up.
Yes.
And so the only chance we have of winning is by not being able to be compared to the competition.
Yeah.
So actually, it's quite a good new business strategy to deliberately do something that is quite unlike what anyone else will come back with.
Yeah.
It's risky though.
It's risky. It's exciting. It's really motivating, and I think that in a world of technology, AI, data-driven, all of those sort of really meaningful, professional and sensible things, I think it makes it even more important that we have the magic. I think that will become even more valuable in the future because everything else is kind of taken care of, and there's an algorithm, and
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that has changed about our industry, and that it has become very sensible and very measurable, because it's had to have been, because we've gone through a couple of recessions in the last 20 years. There is less marketing money than ever before. Clients have to justify their spending like never before, and justify the value of creativity. And so when you present a client with an idea that hasn't been done before, you have no idea how to measure it now, but you will find a way. You need a certain type of client who is willing to partner with you on that journey. And I don't think there are as many of them around as there used to be.
Yeah, and I think it's okay if there aren't, providing, we're still finding a way of meeting one another and doing those sorts of things and helping those clients.
Yeah.
I mean, clients like agencies are under more pressure, more short-termist, more project by project. And I remember when Iris was born, it was also a pretty tense time, and I don't think it was quite in recession, but it was certainly but I think because we were up for it and having a go, and it created that sort of work and those sorts of relationships, and it created loads of amazing client relationships and loyalties, both between ourselves and also with the clients.
Yeah, and we're still in touch with some of those clients today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Olympic mascot, and that is one of my favourite Irish stories. I think they didn't expect us to win. I think, if I remember correctly, we kept on just sort of sneaking in, and they were obviously got to a point where they'd got a short list, and they were using research to work out who the winner was, focus groups and stuff. And I think they wanted like a lion or a teapot, or I don't know, something like that to be the mascot. And there was us with our Wenlock Mandeville, that was a digital first sort of mascot that was customizable and ownable and all the rest of it. And we, unlike our competitors, who I think were like proper character businesses, like the Wallace and Gromit people, because we come at it from a different perspective, we were able to sort of come up with a very different, fresh, innovative, and ultimately successful solution to it that was incredible. I think one of the things though that I've noticed though is, because we come up with these things that are incredible and they're breakthrough, often we don't capitalise on it.
I definitely think we have been greatly misunderstood, and also ahead of our time. It's a combination of message and messenger coming together that hasn't, for whatever reason, either gained respect or traction, because it's just been a bit weird and a bit side. Where's that come from? That's definitely not a thing. A couple of years after these innovations, you spot somebody else who's done something very, very similar, but whether the source is more respected, or the idea just had a bit more funding, or just maybe they had a bit more confidence to keep on talking about it, the thing takes hold. everyone was ready for it at that moment in time, but they weren't when we were talking about it several years earlier. But maybe that's the lesson for us to learn, that we need to have more belief and to not get bored of things so easily.
Yeah.
And this is the flip side of entrepreneurialism. We love coming up with the ideas and we love expressing them. As soon as it's been born and out there in the real world, we've already moved on to something else. And that's not how it works. Some people will keep banging away at something for 5 years, 10 years, and then they have their breakthrough. But we've already done 10 other ideas by then. So, yeah, that's the lesson for us to learn, I think.
Very true. And if it's okay, just want to move on a little bit now, just to talk about being a female and being an entrepreneur, and how you think those things have kind of come together, and has it proven to be a superpower, or has it proven to be something that you're continually battling with?
I always felt, so there were 6 founding partners and I was the only female. I was never really overly conscious of that. I'm a bit of a tomboy, and at school I would have male friends and female friends. I'm quite an active, energetic person, and I love male energy. So I'm very comfortable hanging out with men because they can match me for my need to be quite physical and energetic. And people would say, how does it feel to be the only female in a founding team? How does it feel to be the only female on a board? I refuse to acknowledge it, I think. Looking back now, I was conforming my behaviour to fit in with some of the male behaviours around me. And I couldn't really see it at the time. So I would be quite quiet in board meetings. I wouldn't really speak up until I was really confident in the point I had to make. Yet everyone around me would be making sure that their point was heard. Yeah. And then I would say something and someone else would just say, like, paraphrase what I just said, but say it in a slightly different way, that all the males in the room went, yeah, great idea. But I couldn't see any of that when I was in it. In latter years, as I've got older, I've become more comfortable and confident in my own skin. I've acknowledged the fact that men and women do certainly communicate differently. And they also do conduct themselves quite differently in the workplace. And I think the female energy that I'm now quite comfortable with expressing really does add something quite different. Also, what has changed is that we're no longer male-dominated, particularly at a senior level. And in fact, we're going the other way. Yeah. So there are more women leaders of our offices around the network. I think the female energy that you can bring is, I don't worry about making myself vulnerable. So I will say, I'm not confident in this idea, or I don't really understand it. I don't think it's right. Sometimes the men in the room won't acknowledge that because they think, right, we have to be confident, we have to be sure, we have to be decisive. Yeah. And sometimes expressing doubt or concern will cause the group to think it through a bit more.
Yes.
And it will force us to acknowledge that we can't just smash our way through this change or this new initiative. We do have to be aware of some of the different groups of people. We have a diverse organisation now, so we do need to take those people on the journey with us. I think there was one example in particular where we had an away day. We were doing the yearly planning. There was only myself and another woman in the room. Yeah. And you guys were coming up with a strategy. And it was all war-based military language that you were using around. And I remember just putting my hand up and saying, this is not going to land very well because it's really aggressive. Yeah. It's really forceful. Yeah. You're not acknowledging where everybody else it is on this journey, and also it's really male. 50% of our company is female. You're going to lose them along the way, and it did help us change tact. Yeah. But maybe I only said that because we had a female moderator running that workshop. Yeah.
I don't believe that having a female moderator was an accident.
No, no.
We were in a board meeting yesterday, and we are a mostly female leadership group. Across our network, most of the leaders of the businesses are female.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about myself through this period as well. So because of the sort of interventions and that you've made and other people, just thinking about things differently and that sort of diversity of thought and diversity of perspective is really, really important. It's been good to me and it's changed my perspective and my behaviours as well. I'd love to just go a little bit further with this female leadership, female entrepreneur thing, and just get a sense of if you think about yourself in a female group, how those sort of dialogue, how that chemistry works.
You have to be clear with the group as to who's going to lead this, because women may hold back.
Yeah.
So you won't get a natural person chairing the discussion. Sometimes you have to almost agree at the beginning of the meeting, right? I'm leading this meeting. This is what I want to get out of it, because everyone in it will be slightly more supportive of each other. And the other thing can be that when you have limited time, you have to learn when the time to open up and explore things is, and when is it the time actually to shut down the discussion and move on and make sure that in this 15 minutes or half an hour we have, because we're focused on getting an action out of this, you just have to make your intention clear at the beginning of the meeting that you're going to do that, so that it's not seen as controlling or aggressive behaviour. I just see the women that we have and the women that I work with as really ambitious, really up for it, wanting to get shit done.
Yeah.
It's also a very supportive atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's very interesting when a woman is quite forceful with things, because it challenges your stereotype of what you think women should be. And so when a woman acts in a very assertive way, or at times it could be, we're not going to go there, we're not going to debate that, we are just going to move on, people don't readily accept it in the same way that they would from a man. And that woman may get criticised for behaving like that.
So I just want to spend a bit of time now talking about other things that are sort of going on in your world, in your life as a sort of entrepreneur, and the role that your incredible ability to deal with kind of adversity and challenge, running and climbing and all these sorts of things. So it'd be really good just to understand a little bit more about, over the years, what have you done in that area and what you're getting out of it.
When I can channel some of my energy and my excess energy, it's my time to meditate, it's my time to think. The halo effect for the rest of my life is really significant. I also think that there's a ripple effect with one good habit leads to another good habit, leads to another good habit. So if you're exercising, not only do you feel good about yourself, but you will also eat properly, sleep properly. So it's something that's always been a constant in my life. But I love the outdoors and I love exploring. I love adventure. I've got a curiosity about the outside world. I've got a curiosity about myself and how resilient and strong I can really be. Mountains in particular do just fascinate me. As soon as I see a skyline, it's like I have to be on that ridge. I have to know what it feels like to be on top of that peak. There is something about being on top of a mountain that is very humbling and enables you to put your whole life into perspective. You are so small compared to the landscape that you can see. Yet how amazing are you that you managed to go from that point there to that point at the top of the mountain in a number of hours, days, weeks, whatever it takes. You've done that. And that's an achievement that nobody can take away from you. And so there's a sense of testing yourself, but also it's such a satisfying feeling of freedom, and the sense of self-reliance I get from it makes me really resilient in other areas of my life. Because if I can climb something that I was honestly so scared on the way up that I thought I was going to die, and then I can come back down to real life that is very safe, You're like, what are you scared of in real life? You can't be scared of a meeting. You can't be scared of that person you've got to speak to. You can't be scared of losing that pitch, because it's the juxtaposition with real risk and perceived risk that I find really does help me in everyday life. And I think everyday life, particularly when you live in London, is quite sanitised. And it's going back to basics and working out how you are going to keep going for 24 hours, putting one foot in front of the other, and to cover an incredible distance like 100 miles. That is very simple and very satisfying. And it makes you realise that all the clutter in the rest of your life is just clutter, and you don't need it.
Yeah.
It's not important.
Going back to what you said right at the start, this sort of sense of pushing yourself, testing. You said testing, which I think is a brilliant expression. I can see how you're getting that from the crazy things that you're doing, whether that's ultra long runs or climbing an event, all that sort of stuff. And I can see how that, and being an entrepreneur, that they're sort of inextricably linked for you.
Yeah, there's a problem-solving element to I've got an event to do in a couple of weeks' time, and I know that I'm going to be out on the trail for 12 hours, 16 hours, and I know I'm not going to enjoy all of it. I know that I'm going to be spending a lot of time in my own head battling to get through it, because your body will be telling you to stop, and if you give into it, then you will stop. So the trick is, with your mind, to just constantly keep reframing.
Yeah.
So you'll feel tired, you'll feel hungry, you'll start to run out of energy, you might hurt yourself. You have to work out how to problem solve in that moment and flip the script so that you can get back up, put one foot in front of each other and keep going. And that ability to problem solve in the moment, readjust, change the plan, change your expectations about what that rest of the journey is going to be for you, that's the thing that you do at work every single day. And so people say, oh, the ultra running must have made you really good at work. It's like, no, it's actually the other way around. So my career has made me realise that I can apply all the things I've learned at work to the thing I really love, which is being in the outdoors. And so because of my experience as an entrepreneur, I'm self-reliant, I can problem solve, I'm optimistic, I can reframe things.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And I can keep going when seemingly it's pretty bleak out there, because I trust myself. I trust myself at the end of the day. And you find that some people find that through parenting, but other people find it at work. I've been lucky enough to find it in both areas of my life that I can then cross-fertilise.
It's very interesting hearing, because there was a conversation earlier on today about failed entrepreneurs, and it's like a sort of judgment. They were an entrepreneur, they tried it and they failed. They're a failed entrepreneur, judged. Interesting that is, because think about yourself as an employee for a second. Okay, let's say things don't work out and you leave a company and go to another. Are you a failed employee? I think society doesn't sort of have the same way of looking at entrepreneurs that they do employees. It's a sort of it's a little bit like misunderstood. It's a bit outlier. It's just easier to brand and judge. It's brilliant to hear you sort of describe kind of these outdoor pursuits, because it's just so clear that it's the same rules.
It's the same rules, and we should be looking at entrepreneurs and saying how brilliant that they were prepared to go for it, to put themselves out there. It's the same as being on the start line of an ultra. You don't know if you're going to finish, but you are brave enough to be on that start line. And that's what we should be applauding with entrepreneurs, because whether a business succeeds or not is a lot of the time down to luck, circumstance. Is it the right
Timing.
moment in time?
Exactly.
Have I got the right group of people? There are so many variables that it is almost sometimes a miracle that it does work out. That person was willing to put themselves in the arena, and they should be applauded for that. So yeah, and then maybe that's why I do the scary things outside of work, because I have to just keep putting myself in the arena to know that I'm continuing to grow.
But you've taken on stuff and you've not been able to finish it for one reason or another, and then like you're straight back on with planning another thing. So it's just amazing how you didn't let that
Oh no, I mean, I might not have let it show, but that experience, I mean, it's a brilliant learning opportunity, because why did I fail? Oh, actually, if you're really honest with yourself, there'll have been messages that you ignored. There'll have been things you didn't do. Your prep may not have been as good as you thought it was. So there is always if you're willing to take accountability and say, what was my role in this? It wasn't that it was just too long or the weather was bad. I can mitigate those things if I prepare properly. So I think the people who are successful are those that are willing to always look at what they could have done better, and then change as a result and do something different. And the times I have DNF'd have been really painful, and I haven't forgiven myself for them. But once I have analysed it and understood why and what role I played in that, then I can then say, well, you had a valuable lesson then. You need to do differently next time. You need to do better next time.
Yeah. Brilliant. What a cracking story and some brilliant insights and lessons. I just want to finish with if you just sort of think back on your journey as an entrepreneur, are there any things that kind of you wish you'd known, or are there any things that you'd want to tell, the young Claire as she was sort of embarking on this career?
Not really. I mean, I'm just so pleased that at 25 I had the courage to go for it. So my message to anybody else who is young and feeling disillusioned with where they are at the moment, don't hang around. Just change it. Go and do something different, because you just haven't found the thing yet, or you haven't found the people yet. But life is short, and we can't afford to. When we're 20 and 30, we're young. That's the time to make mistakes. That's the time to take risks. And so I think that people should always continue to put themselves in the arena and work out whether it's right or not pretty quickly. And then if it isn't, do something different.
Yeah. So put yourself in the arena. That sounds like very male.
It's very male. I mean, maybe you guys have.
Put yourself in a war. Oh.
It comes from a famous poem, doesn't it? And the reason why I referenced it was because on the Dragon's Back race, which I did in Wales, which was 200 miles along the spine of the mountains over 5 days. So it was an ultra every day. At 6 a.m. in the morning on the start line, they said this poem.
Really?
Yeah. And so that has always stuck, because you don't know whether you're going to finish.
Yeah.
But what they do make you, they congratulate you for even having the courage to be on the start line. And that's the thing I always remind myself.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think that is the key to everything about this story, isn't it? About having the courage to just be on the start line. And there are always going to be things that happen that affect the journey. Maybe you won't finish the journey, but let's just give it a go and just see what happens, and I think that probably is the big lesson for the entrepreneurial spirit, is just trying things and just see how it goes.
You're tougher than you realise, and you won't break. You really won't break. So don't be scared of that. Just be curious and go out and see what you can do.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been another fantastic episode of Entrepreneurs in the Wild. Join me again sometime soon, and tune in wherever you get your podcasts from.